What if you looked at every extreme situation, every challenging situation in your life as something that you chose? Maybe not consciously, but can you imagine? Can you just open yourself up to the idea that your soul chose that experience, that your soul chose that painful marriage, that your soul chose the divorce, that your soul chose to have a kid when you were 15 years old, that your soul literally chose these experiences for you to become exactly the person that you are in this moment. You can either choose to victimize yourself through the experience for the rest of your life, or you can choose to take away, what can I learn from this? How can I become better through this? Welcome to Path to Alignment with Hungry Yogi. My name is Natalie, your host. I'm a trauma-informed life alignment coach, yoga teacher, and retreat facilitator. If you made it here, you are ready to awaken parts of your soul that have been waiting to be unleashed. We will cover any and all aspects of the human experience. We get open and vulnerable about life and cover the shadows of life as well as the light. I'm so grateful that your soul found its way here. And if you would like to go deeper into your personal development journey, book a free 30-minute alignment call with me to learn about having me as your personal life coach. All the links to learn about my offerings are in the description. Without further ado, let's get aligned. Tuning in with you today from the jungle of Tulum in Mexico, and I'm in one of my favorite places in the world. It's called Holistica, and it's this beautiful yoga retreat center that is just filled with all sorts of things that you can think about holistic and healing and just restorative. And I'm inside of the jungle art walk. So inside of Holistica, they have this beautiful walk that you go through, and it's filled with art installations. So I have this amazing art installation behind me. If you're watching visually, you get to see this beautiful background. I wanted to make it a goal of mine while I was here to record in the jungle, to be in the elements. And so you're going to hear little birds throughout, and we just have our own natural music that's happening here. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm really just tuning in. I want to talk to you guys about some things I've been feeling. I also just came out of a sweat lodge, a Temazcal ceremony last night, and I'm feeling all sorts of messages that came through for me while I was in there, and just things that I want to share with all of you, because they're messages that continued coming through for me that I already knew, that I even teach whenever I'm teaching yoga, for example. But it's one of those things that sometimes in life we have to hear things over and over and over and over. And at every stage in our lives, those things will hit different. They'll resonate different. They will become more amplified or actual practices. So yeah, I'm happy to have you here in the jungle with me. And I also thought it would be really cool to transport you guys and to be able to have my listeners be tuned in to these elements just like I am. So the other day, I just got back from my Matcha Mama yoga retreat that happened literally less than a week ago. And it was the most beautiful retreat ever. If you're not from Houston, if you don't know what Matcha Mama is, it's a seasonal retreat that I host here in Houston. And I do it every spring, summer, fall, winter, as a way to welcome in the season of that time and as a way to sync ourselves up to the season. So for example, if it's winter season, we go inwards, we do some slower practices. I have you journal things that help you release or reflect on what you're going to create during your winter season in your life as well, because when we're able to kind of sync ourselves up to the elements in that way, our energy levels can be as they're supposed to be. As humans, we've evolved into these really creative beings. We've always been very creative, but I think society has pushed us into becoming these beings that are constantly doing. And we have lost connection and touch with the elements. We've lost connection to the seasons and to the way that we are supposed to be synchronizing with nature, because we are nature. But through the hustle and bustle of life, we've forgotten that we are also meant to slow down. And slowing down for some of us may just look like not taking on massive projects during the winter time, may look like in the springtime just slowing down but taking time to start setting goals and to begin to prepare yourselves for summer to come out and to evolve and to grow and to just be ready to do all the things. We naturally do this. In the winter, we see less and less people going out and more so going in, sitting by a fireplace, watching movies, drinking hot cocoa. Like, these are things that just naturally we do because it's cozy and it feels good. You want to just cuddle up in a blanket and not really be out super social at the park because you're freezing. And then in the spring, we start to come out. You start to see more people out and about. You start to see people going to the park. You start to feel yourself wanting to be around people more, to be a little more social, to be a little more active. In the summer, we are all out. Everyone's at the pool parties, at the beach, like, which is, it's, the hustle and bustle kind of really happens in the summertime. And in the fall, we start to kind of slow down with nature to feel this energy of letting go, of releasing, of shedding, just like nature does. But the thing is, most of us are so tuned out from what is happening out here that we just kind of do all this stuff on autopilot, which is fine. You know, society has programmed us to literally live on autopilot. And I just want you to start to think about, as I'm chatting here about Machamama and like all the seasons and all of that. Imagine what life could be like if we started to treat ourselves in the way that we treat nature, the way that we go out more in the summer, the way that we go inside the house more in the winter. Like, what would that look like for your internal state, as far as the way that you treat your emotions, the way that you treat the way that you create goals, the amount of people that you socialize with, the amount that you go out and about, the foods that you're feeding yourself. That's another thing that we do. And it's beautiful because food is one of these things that connects us to cultures, connects us to the seasons, connects us to nature. And for example, in the wintertime, we naturally just start to eat more soups. Like, that's when you go to restaurants, they naturally start to put like soups on the menu, squashes, things that are like really hearty and wholesome, chili, like things that just make you feel like, it's winter. We start to drink like hot cocoa, like I said, or cacao, or whatever you drink, hot teas. But in the summertime or spring, we start to drink the colder drinks. We start to eat the fresher foods, the salads, the things that aren't really cooked as much, pestos, tomatoes, things that are beginning to harvest, things that are that nature is creating for us to eat. And yes, during different times of the year, we eat things that go with not the season of nature that food is in, but if you actually start eating foods that do synchronize with what nature is providing, you start to become more connected to nature, to what's happening to yourself. Because nature literally provides for us the things that we need in exactly the right moments, the right foods. It provides the temperature that we need. It provides the shielding that we need. In the summer, the trees are literally covered. In the spring, the trees are covered. All the leaves are out. There's more shade for us. In the winter and in the fall, the leaves begin to fall. There's less shade because we want the sun to permeate through us. And maybe the nature isn't even doing it for us specifically, but for itself. As the trees begin to shed their leaves in the fall, it's literally so that they can gain more nutrients from the sun because the leaves are taking up so much of the nutrients. So it's just so beautiful to start to think about nature as a whole, that we are not this separate thing that's just walking on this planet. We are literally a part of nature. We are nature. There's a reason that we're all here. And my Machamama event the other day, was such a beautiful reminder for everyone to connect with nature. It started raining, and this was my Spring Pachamama retreat at the Houston Arboretum and Nature Center. It started raining on us in the middle of the opening circle as we were about to do an earth connection workshop. Pretty much everyone stayed. I think maybe one or two people might have left. I think something we do when it starts raining is like, oh, I gotta go. It's raining. I'm gonna get wet. But I'm so proud because a lot of people were just like all about it. They were like, I don't care. I'm gonna put my stuff under my yoga mat and I'm just gonna like be here in this moment. The rain was just enough that it was getting us a little wet, but not enough that it was like, soaking us, right? And it was so amazing because I told everybody to just start jumping around and stomping on the ground and dance around and high five anyone that they didn't know. And it was just, it felt so, to me, it felt so ancestral. It felt like what our ancestors would have done if it started raining. I don't think they would have just hidden. I feel like they would have just like danced in the rain, jumped around. So being in that connection with nature was so amazing. I had a friend doing an earth connection workshop where she had us lay on the grass and just like look at the grass and think of our mother and our father and connect our heart to the grass and to the earth, and to just allow the earth to literally remove any energy from us that isn't serving us, because Mother Earth can take so much. Mother Earth takes so much. It's literally taking all of us, and loves us unconditionally. We're still here on this planet, are we not? So anyways, that was just a little intro to talk about Pachamama and just like the beauty of the event. The retreat was just everything I could have possibly, I couldn't have even dreamt of how beautiful the retreat was. From every person that was there to help me, to every person that was so open. They came with such an open heart to receive the medicine that was given that day, the medicine that is within every single one of us. And that's what I've learned through these retreats that I've hosted, is that this medicine is within every single one of us. And it's not something that's outside of us. We just have to be open to receiving it. We have to be open for it to actually permeate through our souls. And I know, like, for example, I can see when people at my events are very receptive and open and ready to receive. I can see the ones that are a bit more resistant, that maybe don't feel like going all in, and that's okay. We're all at different stages in our lives, and consciously I know that the person that is open and receptive and willing to just receive what is happening for them in the retreat is going to leave with a much different perspective of life than the person who is resisting, the person who is not wanting to open, because you can only receive as much as you open yourself to. You can show up anywhere, and if you're expecting for it to be a good time, for example, and you're not coming into it with a receptivity and openness, you're probably not going to leave with the expectation that you're having. And I used to think about this like back before I started on my spiritual journey and all of the mindfulness things. I would go to parties, and I remember I would always walk in just with an openness of I'm going to just receive. And this wasn't something I was telling myself in my head, but it was like a feeling. It was like I'm going to come in here and just open myself to whatever opportunity, whatever possibility, whatever is here for me. I have no expectations. I create my own good time. I create my own connections. I create what is happening within me. I don't expect something else outside of me to create the enjoyable time for me. And this evolved throughout the years, this thought, this vocalization of what I would do when I would go out and stuff. But I would notice like different people, different friends that would be there, and it's like waiting for the fun time to come to them. Like, okay, yes, I'm here. Now what? What do I do now? Okay, so you're going to leave feeling unfulfilled because you got there expecting that the good time is going to come to you, that somebody else is going to create it for you. But the moment that you wake up, the moment that you literally open your eyes into this world, the moment that your feet touch the ground, you literally get to choose what experience you're going to have in your life. No, you don't get to choose the things that happen, the things that come at you when you're driving. You don't get to choose if someone cuts you off. You maybe don't get to choose in this exact moment the job that you're working in. Maybe it's exactly where you're supposed to be right now, and I truly believe that. Maybe you don't get to choose to wake up at, 11 a.m. and just sleep in. But what you do get to choose is how you perceive that experience, how you perceive any experience, and how you show up in the experience. The way that you walk into a space from the place of not what can I take from here, but how can I open myself up to receive what is here for me? How can I shift my perspective in a way that allows me to receive whatever is here for me in this moment, in this space, in this time in my life? Through a painful time in your life, how can I open myself up to receive all of the lessons that are here for me instead of avoiding them, instead of trying to push them away? How can I even open myself up a little bit to receive the lesson that is here for me? Can I cry more? How do those tears feel in my body? How do these emotions feel as they run through me? You don't get to choose every time what happens, what comes at you. Life is always lifing. And as life is always lifing, you get to choose how you respond to what life is giving you, to what life is showering you with. We can say throwing at you. You can say showering me with. And this is a beautiful segue into my experience with the sweat lodge that I did last night. And if you've tuned into my podcast before, you know that I've done, little bug, you know that I've done another Temazcal episode. And this was last year. I recorded an episode literally right out of a Temazcal. My heart was literally exploding. It was wide open. I had never done anything to the extremity of this experience. And I'm going to explain really quick for those of you who don't know what a sweat lodge is, who don't know what a Temazcal is. So sweat lodges, Temazcales, they are a Mayan and Aztec tradition. They've been used since way before time by indigenous cultures. The purpose of a sweat lodge is to, first of all, connect to Mother Nature, to connect to yourself, and to have a rebirth, to be reborn, to battle with the ego that so often gets in the way of our progress in life, so often gets in the way of our evolution. So to let yourself really have a moment with your ego, it's you versus you, just watching what's happening, and to have almost like what I would call an ego death. So the sweat lodge is exactly what it sounds like. It's a dome. So I'll put a picture in here. I'll put a picture in here for you guys now that we have video for the podcast, which is so cool if you guys are watching. And it's basically a dome, and it symbolizes Mother Earth's womb. Mother Earth's womb. There's a very small opening that you crawl in through. So you typically go in with a facilitator, a shaman. You can do it privately. You can do it in a... Last night was a full moon women's ceremony. So it was just women. There was 6 of us and the shaman. And it began in the most beautiful way because we did a whole ceremony before the actual ceremony where the shaman talked about the full moon and how we can sync ourselves up to the cycles of the moon, because when the moon is full, we typically have more energy to do, to create, to be, to have light. When the moon is in a new moon phase, we typically want to go inwards. It's a more quiet time. It's a more dark time. So I'm going to have her on the podcast one day and have her explain it, because the way that she said this was wow. It was so beautiful. So the sweat lodge is a experience that it can last from an hour and a half to 2 hours. It really depends on the energy in the space. And basically this dome has a hole in the center that gets filled up with volcanic lava rocks. stones that are lit. They've been sitting in fire for hours, heating up from the inside, and they get put in the center. So I won't go too much into detail as far as like how many rocks and what, because you set an intention for every rock that comes in, and it's just a really amazing experience because every woman got to set their intention out loud and touch the rock with a little copal, which is a tree resin that smells beautiful. You touch it and then you sit down and give it to the next woman. And that was a really magical experience. So in this sweat lodge, it consists of 4 doors. So that little door, the little space that we all crawl in through and we sit down once we're in there, that little door gets opened a total of 4 times. Every time is a hotter door. So let's say door 1, let's say we're in there for 30 minutes and there's steam because she's throwing water at it with herbs. So it's creating this steam. And the first one is bearable, but your ego's already starting to get in the way of, am I going to make it through this? Holy crap. It's only been, I don't know how many minutes. And the challenge is staying in there the entire time, no matter what thoughts come up, no matter how intense your mind becomes, no matter how much your mind tells you, you need to get out of here, you're going to die. Staying, not leaving, pushing through and observing how strong and powerful we really are. So door 1, okay, bearable, but your mind's already getting in the way. Door 2, hotter. They put more stones in. The door only opens for like literally a minute, 30 seconds. More stones go in. She throws more water. The steam gets even spicier, even steamier. Some women begin to lay down on their side in a fetal position. Some of them begin to lay on the ground on their stomachs. It becomes very, very intense. And this being my 3rd sweat lodge that I've done, one of the challenges that I gave myself, and this was actually as I was sitting in there through the first door, a challenge I gave myself was, I'm going to sit through the entire experience, because she gave us the option, if it gets too intense, lay on your side. If it gets way too intense, lay on your belly. Try to stay there. Your mind is going to give up faster than your body does. So after that first door, I told myself, I'm going to stay seated. I'm going to stay seated. And I told my mind, I make a promise to you. I will stay seated. I made a promise to my body. I promise I will not give up on you. I will stay seated the entire time because I know I'm not going to die. And one of my greatest intentions this year has been discipline, to have more discipline, to be more disciplined with myself. In my life, nobody ever kept me accountable for being disciplined. I was very much a flowy person, and I didn't like being told what to do. I didn't like telling myself what to do even. So I was not a disciplined person. I just kind of went through life in a very chaotic way. Everything always worked out anyway. But one of the things that I've really set an intention for myself this year has been more discipline. And that looks like so many different things for me. So this for me was the challenge, was I'm going to stay seated. Because yes, let's say for this sweat lodge type of experience, let's say that you're a person that you've always had to do hard things in your life, always had to do hard things, and you never give up, or you never even give yourself permission to surrender. You never give yourself permission to rest, no matter how fucking tired you are. You just don't give yourself permission to surrender to what is there, to lay in a fetal position, to cry, because giving up for you is what feels like death. A person like that, surrender. Like, if your life has always been discipline, if your life has always been, I must do this and I will not stop until I get to blah, 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 blah. If that's always been your life, surrender. Lay on your side. Lay on your belly. Listen to yourself. Listen to your body. Maybe that's exactly what you need to give to your body. So in this sweat lodge, I think there's something really beautiful, because I think sometimes we think of the ego in the sweat lodge as like, if you don't stay seated the entire time, then you didn't do the experience right. you didn't do it good enough, you're not strong enough. I don't think that at all. I just think that everyone's experience is so individual, and it really depends on your intention. If your intention is to surrender, if your intention is, my life has always been so fucking hard and I've never, ever, ever given up or listened to my body, listen to your body, lay on your side. And for me, for example, it's been the opposite. My whole life, it's like, I don't want to do that. Okay, fuck it, I won't do it. Okay. So for me, the intention was discipline. I will be disciplined. I will sit no matter how much my mind tells me to lay down, because it's going to. After that first door, I knew my mind was going to start going, but I made the promise. I said, I will not lay down. Let me give you a micro example of something that I struggle with. Mornings. When I set an alarm in the mornings, guilty, and I know many of you, raise your hand, are guilty of this. Snooze. Or I set the alarm and then I open my eyes and I'm like, oh, gosh, this feels so comfy. I don't feel like getting up right now. I'm just going to set the alarm for like 2 hours from now. And then I do that, right? Then I wake up 2 hours later and I'm like, come on, dude, why'd you do that? Like, why did you listen to the monkey mind? There's the monk mind. There's the monkey mind. The monk mind is disciplined. The monk mind knows that the monkey mind is trying to swing through little ropes. It's trying to go here and talk you out of the thing that you told yourself that you're going to do, right? The monk mind knows that. So the monk mind just observes the little monkey mind going boop, 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 from side to side, swinging from branch to branch. It just watches and it sits in complete stillness and it just gets the fuck up, gets out of bed and tells the monkey mind, not today, not today. So that's my battle in the mornings, right? And that carries on through other aspects of my life. How you do one thing is how you do literally everything. Listen to that. I say this all the time. And my coach would say this to me. And there was this resistance when I would hear it. Like, no, that's not true. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Everything. For example, if you, when you're doing the dishes, are just thinking about, oh, I can't wait to be done with this. This sucks. What else in your life are you doing in that way? The majority of our life is filled with mundane experiences. The majority of life is filled with doing our dishes, doing our laundry, making the bed, brushing our teeth, folding our clothes, cleaning the house, I don't know, driving here, driving there, being stuck in traffic. The majority of life is that. There's the small moments throughout the day that can be like what we consider quote unquote enjoyable moments, right? When you get to sit down and have a cup of coffee in stillness for a moment, perhaps. But if we treat those little mundane moments as like when is this going to be done? We literally don't enjoy life. We don't enjoy life because we're robbing ourselves the opportunity of actually enjoying every little thing in life. Every little moment can be an enjoyable moment when we're being present. Something that the shaman said yesterday before going into the sweat lodge was, well, first of all, someone raised their hand and said, how long is the sweat lodge going to be? The shaman was like, look, it could be an hour, could be an hour and a half, could be 2 hours. If you're thinking about while we're in there, when are we going to be done? The experience is going to be awful for you because the whole time you're going to be thinking about when are we going to be done? And this is kind of like when you're working out, let's say you're doing some squats with like really heavy weights. And you know that you have like 3 left and those last 3 are like the hardest ones and you already know you're about to finish. So maybe you give up right beforehand. But since you know you're about to finish, the body kind of starts to give up, right? Or let's say you're going for a run and you're about to hit the finish line, but it's like, you just want to like get there. You just want to get there and you go as fast as you can, but you just want to get there. And the goal is getting there instead of the goal being, how can I be so present with what is happening right here in this moment in my body? How can I be so present with my breath that I don't even think about the finish line? I just get there naturally, but I get there joyfully because I allowed myself to feel the full depth of all of it, right? So when the shaman said this is something that I left in a mark in my mind as I was sitting in the sweat lodge. Because oftentimes when we're at work, when it's Monday, when we're at work, we're like, I can't wait to get home. When it's Monday, I can't wait till it's Friday. We're always waiting for the next moment, the like finish line of everything, rather than being immersed in whatever it is that you're in right now. We victimize ourselves when we're in a certain situation that isn't enjoyable, instead of seeing, how can I make the best of this situation in this moment? I can't change the situation perhaps right now, maybe in the future I can, but how can I somehow create an experience in this moment that can be at least memorable for me? How can I not exit my body through this moment? So sitting in the sweat lodge, I'm going to tell you what started to happen in my mind. I started to hear my mind saying, after I made the promise to myself that I wouldn't lay down, I started to hear my mind saying, it's fine, just lay on your side, it's okay. Like, just lay on your side, it's okay to surrender. Like, listen to your body, it's okay to surrender. It's not giving up, it's surrendering. And it's funny because the voice sounded so gentle. It sounded so gentle that I was actually believing it. It's funny because there was a conversation happening between my higher self and my ego self, but the ego self can be so it's almost like a dominatrix. It's like, it's okay, just surrender. It manipulates you in this really seductive way that makes it seem like, oh, maybe that's actually what my higher self is telling me. And that's why it's so important to get to know your mind, because your mind literally has different layers to it. And if you don't know where one voice is coming from, where the other is coming from, you're going to fall most likely for that seductive voice, the ego. So as the ego is telling me in the seductive way to just lay down, it's fine, you're not giving up, you're just surrendering. I then came in and I said, no, I made this promise to myself. I'm going to stay seated. I'm going to stay seated. And that was a conversation that was happening for a while. When it started to get extremely, extremely hot in there, I noticed if I would breathe really deeply, it actually made the experience 20 times harder. I could feel my breath creating more heat around me. If I moved my arms at all, because I started to feel fidgety, if I moved at all, the heat would just go through me and I'd be like, oh gosh, I can't move. So I sat, guys, for the entire, I think it was 2 hours, maybe more. The entire time I had my hands on my lap, my spine was long, I was sitting against the wall. Eyes were closed when you would, I didn't mention, it's pitch black in there, so you can't see anything. All you can do is hear the shaman. She's singing songs, she's playing a drum, and you can kind of just hear people's breath. But it's pitch black. So your mind is already starting to create images, colors, illusions, because it's pitch black. You're entering the subconscious mind. So it's not like you can look somewhere to kind of take your attention or your focus somewhere else. The only way to look is within. How freaking often do we get the opportunity to literally just look within? That's what meditation is. But this was almost like a forced meditation, because you have no option but to look within. The thoughts, the feelings, the memories, the stuck energy that starts to come up and arise, that is all there in the subconscious mind. So as I'm sitting here, I'm finding complete stillness. I'm literally sitting like a statue. And I told myself, don't move, just stay still. Before we started the ceremony, the shaman said, the fire is love. The fire is love. The steam is love. The heat is love. Receive it as love. Receive it as love. I think a lot of us have an association with fire, that it's this dangerous thing, that it's fierce, and it is. And it's love, it's warmth, it's coziness. There's nothing like sitting by a fire surrounded by people you love, like listening to music or something. Bonfires, they create a sense of unity. We gather around fires. We've gathered around fires for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Fires have been a ceremony space. There's a little pit right behind me, if you can see it. Fires are meant for ceremony spaces. They're meant for us to gather in circles as one. So fires are very, very loving energy. And a mantra that I'm going to share with you guys, if you have a pen, write this down, because this got me through the entire Temazcal experience. And it's the only thing that was keeping me from engaging in the little thoughts that were coming in, trying to seduce me into laying down and to give up. I said to myself, I open myself to receive love. And I just kept repeating that. I open myself to receive love. As I was saying that, I visualized the fire, the steam, the smoke as love showering my body. And when I tell you, the smoke, the steam felt like it was burning my body. This is the most intense heat I could possibly ever imagine. Probably over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, probably. I think it's like over 50 degrees Celsius. It's very, very hot, and it's steamy, which makes it feel really intense. So I'm envisioning that fire being love, the steam that's touching my skin being love. I could literally feel, as I was repeating the mantra, the steam becoming absolutely bearable. The steam just becoming one with me. It wasn't even feeling painful. It wasn't feeling intense the moments that I was repeating that mantra in my mind. So it taught me, because I think I've said mantras in my life many times. I've repeated affirmations. I've wrote them down in the mirror. I've done all the things with affirmations. I know how powerful they are. But this was an embodied experience, because I think often we say the mantras and maybe we don't always feel them fully in a moment that feels extremely chaotic and extreme. Every time I would say the mantra, it would make the pain go away physically. It was an embodied experience of a mantra. I open myself to receive love. This is all love. I open myself to receive love. When it started getting more intense, I then added on to the mantra. I open myself to receive love. I release resistance. I release resistance. For me, resistance has shown up in so many areas of my life where I resist, and we do this naturally. We resist things that feel unknown. We resist things that feel uncomfortable. And if you can tap into the energy of resistance in your body, it sits in different places for all of us. For me, it's like a heart space. It's my belly. It feels tight. So I would start feeling my chest and belly tighten up. I release resistance. I open myself to receive love. This is an invitation for anyone who's listening. Say this out loud. Pause this. Say it out loud. Say this to yourself anytime that you're entering a challenging moment, that you're entering something in your life that feels like it's going to make you fall to your knees and cry. Release the resistance. The resistance makes it harder. The resistance makes everything more challenging. What resists persists. In the sweat lodge, when I would feel myself resisting the heat, it was almost as if the heat was trying to enter, but I'm resisting. I'm creating this exterior shell around me, resisting the heat. So the heat would just get stronger because it's trying to enter my cells. It's trying to come in and say, open yourself up. Just open yourself up. Stop fucking resisting me. Stop resisting the lesson. You chose to be here. You chose to be in this situation. And I know, for example, things like ice baths, sweat lodges, really intense yoga classes, breath work, those are things that we choose to do. We choose to put ourselves in these intense situations to learn something from them. What if you looked at every extreme situation, every challenging situation in your life as something that you chose? Maybe not consciously, but can you imagine? Can you just open yourself up to the idea that your soul chose that experience, that your soul chose that painful marriage, that your soul chose the divorce, that your soul chose to have a kid when you were 15 years old, that your soul literally chose these experiences for you to become exactly the person that you are in this moment. You can either choose to victimize yourself through the experience for the rest of your life, or you can choose to take away, what can I learn from this? How can I become better through this? The soul did not come here to sit in victim mode. And I know that a lot of people will get triggered by what I'm saying right now. My coach has said this in really big groups, and people get triggered because nobody wants to hear that you fucking chose something extremely painful and challenging. All we want to do is point the finger at that person, that, right? At our parents, at our grandparents, at the person that you were in a relationship that was the abuser, at blah, blah, blah. You fucking chose that. I chose those things. And I'll be raw with you. There's things in my life that I've chosen that at the moment I was victimizing myself. I chose to go into a marriage that absolutely didn't work out. And I knew, my intuition was telling me deep down, there's something wrong here. There's something that you're doing that doesn't feel right. I fucking chose it. I got cheated on. I got divorced. I chose it. And I'm grateful now on the other end that I can see that experience as like an actually beautiful experience that I would change nothing about, because it made me the person that I am now. I wouldn't be sitting on this podcast here with you had I not gone through that painful divorce, had I not gone through a marriage when I was 20 years old. I entered a relationship that was physically abusive and emotionally abusive, verbally abusive. That was fucking painful. And I chose to be there because the compassionate part of me would see the person as, oh, it's their wounded child. I must stay here because they're wounded. Poor thing. Yeah, poor thing. And I don't need to fucking stay in that. And neither do you. So there's all sorts of things that we don't look at as a choice. We look at as it just landed in my lap and then I'm just here. No, you're choosing every experience, every moment, even if you don't see it. Look deeper. Look deeper. There's a lot of things that we are choosing, and maybe you're choosing it because that's what is available for you in this moment through your perspective. Maybe there isn't another option that you see right now. Maybe you haven't opened yourself up to receive different options, different ways that things could be. So you stay in that. Let that land. Let that land. So the beauty of choosing our suffering, of choosing our pain in a way that is more conscious, such as a sweat lodge, an ice bath, breath work, things that are like really, really intense, a mushroom ceremony, ayahuasca, plant medicine, all the things. The beauty of that is it carries on with you into your other experiences in life. Because then when a really intense experience comes your way, your mind has now understood, I'm not going to die through this challenging experience. I can do really hard things. Something else that came up for me in my experience was the importance of stillness. The importance of stillness. Another mantra I kept repeating to myself is be still. Be still and listen. Just be still and listen. And if you're listening to this right now, let's take a moment right now. If you can, if you're not driving, I invite you to close your eyes. If you are driving, try to find stillness somewhere within you, somewhere that was fidgeting, somewhere that was moving a lot. And just take a moment here. Just be still. Listen. Listen to what's happening in your mind. Listen to any sounds around you. Just listen. Be still. Through stillness, we find ourselves. Life can get really chaotic. Things can get really chaotic. Everything around us is moving at all times. The world is moving. Things that are happening in our phone make it feel like everything is moving 24/7 at every moment. We can actually see the movement now, rather than when you're sitting without your phone, just sitting in stillness in your home. And there is actual stillness. But we've opened ourselves up to a world where we see the movement, even when we're trying to be still. So what would it look like for you in this moment to just be still and listen? When we find that stillness, we stop the outer chaos just for a moment. We take ourselves inwards. We give ourselves the opportunity to look at what's inside. So what is inside you right now? What do you see? What do you feel? Just observe. Notice how it makes you feel to just find a little bit of stillness. Maybe suddenly the chaos pauses just for a moment. Just for a moment. I invite you to find that practice in your life throughout the day, especially if you're in a place in your life that feels extremely challenging. Be still and listen. Through stillness, we find answers. I can't tell you the amount of times that I have had chaos happening in my mind, chaos happening in my life, answers that needed to be answered. And I was looking for them all over, outside of me, in the chaos, calling people, texting people, Googling things. And I've sat, closed my eyes, and found absolute stillness, not a guided meditation, not journaling, not listening to anything outside of what the current experience is, and just observing. And through my stillness, when I've asked the question to the universe, God, source, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I find stillness, I hear in my mind, there is nothing that you need to do. Just be still and listen. And it's like, oh, there's nothing I need to do. I can just be with these emotions. I can just be with these thoughts, and from a grounded place, create a different reality for myself. There's enough turmoil happening outside. Why create so much turmoil inside? Anyways, I've noticed I go on big tangents in these episodes, and I hope that you guys enjoy that. Please let me know what you thought of this episode. Please let me know what came up for you. I am learning to be more open and vocal about things, even if they're not received exactly the way that I am saying them. I am learning that when we trigger others through our words and through our being, it's an opportunity for that person to look within. Not everyone is going to agree with me. Not everyone is going to agree with you. And that is the beauty of life, that we all get to have such different experiences, perspectives. And that's okay. Thank you all for listening, for tuning into Path to Alignment today. Open yourself up to receive love. Let go of resistance. Aho.